Age of Empires is fun, except when you lose, and unfortunately, I do a lot of losing whenever I play. I like to think that it's because my opponents are strong, but in reality, it's because even after 3 years, I'm still bad. In a desperate attempt to feel like I'm improving even just a little bit, this is why I, and probably maybe you too, suck at Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. The only YouTube series that's like essential oils. That is to say, there's no proof it'll actually make you better, and in fact, it probably won't.
Why are we still here?
Today's all about Thanos and Redditor's favorite topic, balance. Except not that kind. It's actually about ego balance. The whole idea behind balancing your economy is to collect the resources you need and not have extra left over that you don't. Floating resources is, in a way, equivalent to villager idle time. Since the res your villagers collected isn't getting spent, they shouldn't have bothered collecting it in the first place. Balancing your economy properly allows you to get upgrades earlier, go to the next stage faster, and make more units. It's really important to take the right amount of resources for what you're doing, so you aren't wasting time collecting stuff you don't need.
It's just perfect economy balance, which I understand is hard to do, but my point is the more you understand these ideas, the better your economy will eventually be.
Naturally, that begs the question, how do I balance my economy? Well, there are a few good ways to do so. In the Dark Age, memorizing build orders will do all the hard work for you. But when you start getting further into the game, you're on your own. There are still some important things to remember though. For instance, you need roughly 6 to 7 farmers to sustain villager production from a town center, 3 to 4 on gold for each archery range, making archers, 4 to 5 for knights. For every 10 farmers, you need roughly 1 lumberjack to keep the farms from expiring. In fact, I made a list of exactly what you need for constant production of every unit in the game. I recommend you memorize all of it if you want to get better. Okay, yeah, maybe that's a bit impractical, but it's still important to have good balance. You don't want extra floating resources going to waste, and you need to be able to know when you can afford to get upgrades or add another production building. So, if memory won't work, what does?
Smash the like button.
Well, one way is to use the market. Pro players and loser math nerds will tell you that you should never use the market.
All players should use the market to readjust their economy, sure, especially if it's poorly set up.
Oh, Spirit of the Law says something I actually agree with? Yeah, that must be a mistake.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Anyways, pro players hate the market because every time you use it, it costs resources, which means it's a mistake. But unless you yourself are a pro player, which, let's face it, you're not, don't listen to them. Unless you actually are, in which case, please call me, I need some advice on how to get good. Anyways, use the market. 70 resources you can use, getting upgrades, making units, or going to the next age is better than 100 resources you have no idea how to spend. At the risk of sounding like a math nerd, the second way to balance your economy is to use calculus. It sounds fancy, but it's not. If you look at your eco, and you have lots of resources, say wood for example, take a few villagers off the resources and spend the wood on farms, extra mining camps, units, more production buildings, or even TCs. If you have leftover food, take some farmers and move them, or sell food for gold and go up to the next age or get upgrades. Much like the idle villager button and the minimap, you should just get accustomed to constantly checking on your resources. If you keep an eye on it all the time, it should never get out of hand.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
And when you inevitably screw it up because you suck at this game, don't be afraid to abuse the market a little bit. The next thing worth mentioning is stone. Collecting stone rocks. Come on. Who wrote that joke? That joke sucks. I mean, come on. Alright, okay. Anyways, stone is important for defensive buildings. Walls, outposts, towers, castles, and town centers all cost stone, and odds are you will want at least a few of those things. Sending villagers to stone hurts your economy because it's collection time that you could spend elsewhere, but it's a necessary evil. Palisade walls are nice, but castle age units can barge in faster than you can react to wall behind, so use stone walls to give you a rock solid defense. This again? Really? Really? Come on. No one likes this. It's not funny, right? It's bad. Getting stoned at the right time is an art nobody has mastered. Most pro players recommend sending 3 to 4 villagers to stone as soon as you can afford it, which means once you have enough villagers to keep up constant production of the units you want to make, Send a few villagers to stone. With 4 villagers, it will take almost 6 minutes in-game time to collect stone for a castle, which is a long time. A 4th TC will take about 1 minute to collect. If you have full map control, you might decide to skip rocks. Oh my god, I can't do this. I'm deleting the script. It sucks. Anyways, doing so gives a stronger eco, allowing for more army. Obviously, if you're behind in military, you should consider doing the exact opposite. Getting defenses up to protect yourself should be your #1 priority. Here's another pro tip. When you're in the Imperial Age, you want somewhere between 100 and 130 villagers. You want less in situations where your units are cheaper. For instance, if you're making Arbalest or Champions, the extra population space from having less villagers is extremely valuable because it leaves room for a powerful military. When you're making powerhouse units, like Paladins, War Elephants, or War Wagons,
the new Koreans, I love, alright? It's time to set the record straight. Koreans are cool now.
You need less population space for your army, and the extra eco helps get those pricey units out on the field. When making your eco, remember to...
You leave enough room for Jesus.
No. Leave room for a strong army. If you notice you have lots of extra resources piling up, try deleting a couple of villagers from that resource. Doing so will free up some pop space that you weren't really using to put towards your army. And if you never seem to have quite enough, add a few villagers to help keep up with your production. Balancing your economy correctly is the natural next step in reducing idle time and maximizing efficiency. And a well-balanced economy means early upgrades and more units. The most important thing is to keep an eye on your resources at all times and proactively make adjustments when you see something getting too high or you don't have enough. Or you could just ignore eco-balance entirely and abuse the market like a Twitch streamer does their pet. Amazing Learn.